And welcome back to Retro Wrestling Games Presents. I'm your host, Alex G, and with me this evening is Matt Riley. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm super and duper.
All right, I dig that. You know, the Taco Bell that I just ate is giving me some heartburn, so this this review might be interesting to say the least. This episode, we're taking a look at Tag Team Wrestling for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, Tag Team Wrestling, that's rough.
It means well. It means well.
So Tag Team Wrestling was released in 1986. It was published Data East here in North America. And this is a port of an earlier wrestling game that was developed by Technos of Japan that was released in January 1984. Now, this game is notable because it was the first professional wrestling game released on the Nintendo Entertainment System. After this, you had Pro Wrestling and you had Tecmo Wrestling after this. Pro Wrestling probably being the cream of the crop in terms of Nintendo wrestling games. This game is slightly below average, so it's not as bad as, say, King of the Ring or Muscle, but it's not as good as Black Box Pro Wrestling. As the title suggests, this game is all about tag team wrestling, and there's two teams that you can pick from, the Strong Bads and Ricky Fighters. And I don't even know what that means. I don't know what the Strong Bads are. That's very strange to me. And the Ricky Fighters. So the Ricky Fighters, their team is made up of Ricky and Ultra Machine. Can we safely assume that Ricky is supposed to be Ricky Choshu here? Possible.
Sure.
And Ultra Machine is probably, Super Strong Machine maybe. Going on a limb, say that. And then the Strong Bads are Mass Cross and Whirly. Their names. All right, when they translated this game, they couldn't get someone to be like, let's come up with actual names for these guys. Yeah, I call them Ricky and Ultra Machine and Mass Cross and Whirly and the Strong Bads. And
I'm telling you, man, every international company should have one American on payroll. Just look at things and go read this over and make sure it looks legit and there's no weird errors.
It's like, this is weird. Like, translating it is weird to me. It's like, what are you doing? It's not good. In terms of the controls are fine, I guess. You have two buttons. One is a select button. The other one is action button. Again, with the action buttons, we've seen this in other wrestling games. The action buttons does various moves. And then it's kind of difficult, to be completely honest, to execute what you're trying to do, which is a staple of wrestling game. If you want to grapple, you should be able to grapple. If you want to try to pick someone and send them on an Irish whip, send them for the ride, you should be able to do that with no problem.
Know, from what I saw, there's a lot of outside brawling.
It's just, that's all you can basically do is you brawl, and every once in a while, hold on, wait for Ice Train to come through.
Ice Train sponsor.
So once you turn red, you start flashing red, you can do a special attack of some sort, and everyone has a different one. Like Ultra Machine has a Brain Buster, Mass Cross has an Insiguri, Whirly has a Western Lariat. So I'm gonna assume Whirly is Stan Hansen since he has the Western Lariat here, and that's basically it. You fight the same guys over and over again. So if you get 3 wins, you get the American Tag Team Championship. 8 wins will earn you the European Tag Team Championship. 15 wins will get you the World Tag Team Championship, and 25 wins will give you the Super Tag Team Championship. And that's that.
Well, there it is.
Again, you grapple with A, and then you basically have 3 seconds to cycle through a list of moves using the B button to execute the chosen move with the A button, which it's not kind of user-friendly. Every character has 7 regular moves, and the 8th move, again, being the super move that they can only use against their rival, I guess, which is weird. Everyone has the same moves on the outside, so a body slam, a backdrop, or ram opponent's face into the ring post, and that's basically it. So, in terms of a wrestling game overall, I mean, I think you can closely associate this game with Mat Mania, which is a lot better game, it's also a lot harder too. We'll talk about that at some point. The wonderful Dynamite Joe, which is, it goes to show you how popular Dynamite Kid was in Japan.
Dynamite Joe.
Dynamite Joe. This game is average to below average. Under no circumstances is this a must-buy. Again, you're hardcore collectors, you're going to get this game, right, regardless. So if you're into wrestling video games and you collect them like I do, this is a game that you have to own. It's not incredibly expensive on eBay. I've seen it for $10. I've seen complete ones in box for like $25. So they're not going to hurt your wallet necessarily, but in terms of it being a fun game, it's not necessarily all that fun to play. The graphics are okay for better than Atari games, and this is 86, so yeah. Nintendo's only been out for 2 years, essentially, and if you count the Famicom in Japan. Again, you're not going to get the greatest graphics here. This is not 1993 NES, so you kind of get a pass on it, although, Black Box Pro Wrestling, with my main man, Amazon and Fighter Hayabusa is a much better game, for sure. So Matt, you saw gameplay of this. What are your thoughts?
It has a very Atari feel to it to me. I think it's a transition. Like I said, the exterior brawling's fine, but it's just mayhem. And again, the whole stopping to select herky-jerky motion. They mean well, they're trying, but ways to go, kids. And I think at the time it was a rush to get stuff out. We'll get these out and get on the market. They didn't always mean good products.
Again, this game was originally developed for the arcade. It was ported to all your home PCs, your Apple IIs, and whatever, and it finally made its way down to the NES. Again, you have to, every time you go do one of these ports, especially to weaker hardware, it's going to be a different quality there every single time. So every time they're downporting these, that's why you see a lot of arcade games. I guess the most notorious would be Pac-Man for the Atari. It was like, oh, what is this? It doesn't even look like Pac-Man. Why is everything squares?
Right.
At the time, in the 80s, guys, you have to understand this, that arcades is where it's at. Your PC games are more for like click and point adventures or tech stories, and that was a different type of gaming. But for your action games, the arcade is still where it's at, and it will probably remain that way until the advent of the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. So, I mean, we had a lot of great arcade games throughout the 80s and into the early 90s that we'll talk about real soon. So, all right, guys, so we are officially out of time. So for Matt Riley, I am Alex G. Have